1. Jahannam. The sentence falls in the text. Sent to Jahannam. That phrase appears in the Quran like a final stamp. Surah 3:103 warns against the fire of Jahannam. Surah 5:10 names it as the destination for those who reject the signs. The term appears over 70 times. It is the word used when the text wants to say clearly, this person is condemned. The doomed are gathered here. It is the baseline name. Jahannam is the umbrella. It covers everything. When the Quran lists the fate of those who turn away, it starts with this name. It is the general term, the default setting for divine rejection. But open the books of the early commentators. Open the tafsir of Ibn Kathir. Open the explanations of Al-Tabari. These scholars look closer at the word. Some of them draw a map of the fire, and on that map, Jahannam is not only the whole place, it is the top layer specifically, the uppermost ring. It is the first compartment the condemned enter. The same word that means hell everywhere else becomes, in their reading, the specific name of the upper gate. Double duty. One word working two jobs. Both the container and the first room. Every other name in the list exists inside this frame. Every other name in the list sits beneath that gate. To be sent to Jahannam is to pass the upper threshold into the rest. Saqar. The body begs for water, the mouth is dry, the skin burns. This is not just fire, this is Saqar. The Quran names this place in Surah 54:48. It says people will be dragged into Saqar on their faces. They will be pulled into the heat. Surah 74 mentions it 3 times. The word paints a picture of burning that never stops. But the text adds something worse than heat. It adds thirst. The people in Saqar get no water to drink. Instead, they get a boiling liquid that tears their insides. This is in Surah 38:57-58. The drink is thick and hot, it burns the throat. Early scholars like Al-Tabari look at this name. They do not see just heat. They see a gate. Some hadith books list Saqar among the gates of the fire. But the Quran keeps the image simple and brutal. Hunger presses on the stomach. The throat closes. The heat dries the skin. These are not ideas about punishment. These are body facts. The text focuses on the stomach and the mouth. Surah 74:27-28 gives a number. Over Saqar are 19 guardians. That number is in the text. Not 12, not 20, 19. That makes the place counted. It is staffed. The result is pain you can feel. The texts tie Saqar to the denial of basic needs. Water becomes a weapon. Food becomes a trap. The body that rejected truth now finds every drop of relief is gone. The thirst is part of the punishment. Saqar is the moment when the body understands what the soul ignored. The heat sears the throat. Mouths gape for water and find only the thick boiling drink that tears their insides. Sa'ir. The flames do not rest. They climb without pause. Hour after hour, year after year, the fire keeps biting. This is Sa'ir. The Quran names this blaze in Surah 4:10. It warns that guardians who steal from orphans will taste Sa'ir. The name returns in Surah 17:18. The text uses it when describing those who chase only this world and keep rejecting the signs. They refuse once, then again. Then they build a whole life on the refusal. The denial becomes permanent. Classical scholars study these verses in tafsir. They see something beyond temperature. Ibn Kathir and Al-Tabari link Sa'ir specifically to continuous public denial. It is not for a hidden mistake. It is for the person who rejects openly and never stops. The fire carries a specific address. It matches the shape of the sin. The commentators found the sharp detail. Sa'ir burns for persistent refusal that hardens over time. The fire is unending because the denial was unending. The punishment mirrors the pattern exactly. As the person refuses to pause, the fire does not pause. The victim enters a heat that has no clock. No morning arrives. There is no night to bring sleep. The skin burns, heals, and burns again in a loop that never breaks. This is biting, sustained fire reserved for entrenched disbelief. Sa'ir is the mirror. It burns without end because the denial never ended. The flame outlasts every stubborn word. Jahim. The text piles up the names. One fire is named, then another, then a third. The heat in the words climbs higher with each line. This is Jahim. The Quran places this name in lists. Surah 37:23 groups it with other names of punishment. Surah 21-98 mentions those who worshipped false gods will enter Jahim. The word means a blaze that is furious, raging. It is not calm, it is not quiet, it is fire that has been angered. Classical scholars look at these lists in tafsir. Ibn Kathir and Al-Tabari see a pattern. The Quran does not just repeat the same word for musical effect. It stacks the names like steps going down into darker heat. Each name adds a new quality, a new bite, a new intensity to the pain. The commentators treat Jahim as a specific qualitative escalation. It is not a simple synonym for the first fire. It is a fiercer stage reserved specifically for those whose crimes are heavier and whose rejection was sustained. The language climbs. Jahannam is named. Then comes Jahim. The text moves from the general container to the specific biting heat that gnaws deeper. The stack is intentional and rhetorical. Each name ratchets up the force of the warning. The result is a fire that burns with aggravated fury. Those whose sins drew a heavier weight find a heat that matches exactly. The punishment scales up because the text itself scales up the name. Jahim is the step where the fire stops being background and becomes specific, furious attack. The language itself turns up the heat until it glows white. If this is opening your eyes to what Islamic sources actually say, subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a like. That's what makes YouTube show this to more people. Let's keep going. Hutamah. The vessel falls. The stone strikes. The clay shatters into dust that cannot be gathered. This is not fire. This is breaking. This is Hutamah. The Quran names this place in Surah 104. It asks a question. It says, "And what can make you know what is Hutamah?" Then it answers immediately. It says Hutamah is the fire of Allah, a fire that breaks into pieces. The name itself carries the action inside it. It is not just a label. It is a description of what happens there. The word comes from a root that means to crush, to smash completely, to reduce a solid thing to fragments that can never be put back together. Classical scholars in tafsir, including Ibn Kathir, focus on this root. They highlighted that the image was breaking apart. They explain that Hutamah brings a different picture than the names that speak of heat. This is not about temperature. This is about pressure, about the grinding weight that collapses structure. The commentators found the specific detail. They highlighted that the image was breaking apart. The crushing is not just a symbol for feeling bad. It is a physical description of the end. The body that carried the sins is broken down. The hard heart is shattered like dry pottery. The form that held the person together collapses under the weight. The texts assign this breaking to those whose sins have accumulated mass. The result is annihilation and ruin. Hutamah represents the aspect of torment focused on being broken down completely, not warped, not scorched, crushed until no whole piece remains. Hutamah is the crusher. It leaves only fragments. No shape survives the stone. Hawiya. The scales hang in the air. 2 plates. One side holds every good word. The other holds every hidden act. The pointer moves. It stops. The side with virtue rises up. The side with sin stays down. The weight is not enough. The man stands in the courtroom of judgment. He watches the verdict arrive. Then the floor beneath him disappears. He falls. This is Hawiya. The Quran places this name in Surah 101. It describes the weighing of souls on a day when people scatter like moths. It says the one whose scales are light will have a mother named Hawiya. The word means the abyss, the deep pit, the bottomless drop that has no floor to catch the body. Classical scholars look at this image in tafsir by Ibn Kathir and others. They see a courtroom scene made real. The balance is not a symbol. It is an actual scale with real plates. When the record fails, the body falls. Hawiya is the space that receives the collapse. It is the spatial verdict made into geography. The place becomes the judgment. The name comes from a root that means to fall down, to collapse, to sink deep without stopping. And the Quran attaches it specifically to the weighing result. Not to every sinner, only to the one whose scale is light. The fall happens after the measurement. The depth matches exactly the lack of weight on the good side. The texts show a person tumbling into darkness. No hand reaches out, no ledge appears. The descent is total and without end. Humiliation and absolute fall for those whose record fails. Hawiya is the drop that has no end. The scale tips light and the floor opens into nothing. Sijjin. The book opens. The pages are thick and heavy. Every line is a deed written in ink that does not fade. Each word is a witness against the one who did the act. This is Sijjin. The Quran mentions this name in Surah 83. It says the record of the wicked is kept in Sijjin. But classical scholars like Al-Tabari and Ibn Kathir look closer at the text. They find something strange. Sijjin is not just a book sitting on a high shelf. It is also a deep pit under the ground. It is both the filing cabinet and the dungeon. The word works 2 jobs at once. It is the register that lists every sin in exact order. And it is the prison that holds the sinner tight. The paperwork and the pit are the same thing. The book becomes the walls around the prisoner. The written record transforms into the place of confinement. The ink becomes stone. The texts describe a subterranean realm far below. The guilty are placed inside the same space where their deeds are stored. The writing does not stay flat on paper. It grows into 3 dimensions. It becomes the geography of the punishment. The list of bad acts turns into the floor and the ceiling and the locked door of the cell. The result is sealed fate. There is no gap between the accusation and the prison. The document that proves the guilt becomes the exact location where the guilty person must stay. The administration and the topography overlap completely. The verdict and the walls are one piece. Sijjin is where the file becomes the cell. The record that condemns you becomes the place that confines you. 7 names. Jahannam, Saqar, Sa'ir, Jahim, Hutamah, Hawiya, Sijjin. Each name performs a specific function in the texts. Jahannam operates as both the general container and the specific top ring where entry begins. Saqar supplies the hard sensory image of scorching thirst guarded by 19 keepers. Sa'ir burns continuously for those whose public denial never paused. Jahim ratchets up the heat for aggravated sins. Hutamah turns the verb to crush into a place of disintegration. Hawiya becomes the bottomless fall triggered by light scales. Sijjin collapses the book of deeds and the prison walls into one confined space. Taken together, these names show how a tradition turns moral judgment into lived places, rooms, fires, falls, and records that can hold you as much as they name you. Share this with one person who should hear it.